200 years, not only 100. But parallel to that, we put a lot of investment and subsidies to push the solar energy sector. This is what is needed. It's a political decision. And it's also a way you need to change your thinking and not regard solar power or solar energy as a plot from the West to push away oil. This is not the case. We should free ourselves from that perception that renewable energies are a Zionist plot or a Western plot to weaken oil or to weaken the Gulf states. It is not.
Okay.
I think.
But just for the essence of time, I don't mean to be rude, but just the essence of time. Last question from the floor, from microphone 3. Thanks.
We have been talking more about investment in energy sector, but I feel we should recommend also for demand management. We have to make some changes in the mindset all over the world. Reformers should come forward and they should speak about demand management side. And my second point is about nuclear energy. I fully agree with the Honorable Minister of Tehran that nuclear is okay. I have been a power station engineer myself for a number of years, rather more than a decade, and I see no wrong with nuclear energy. I see no wrong with energy. If uranium is finished, we will have thorium in millions of tons. That's all.
Okay, thanks for sharing your thoughts. Pick up your voting devices here. I'm going to do one final question for you, and something that came out of a debate I was chairing in Brussels on Friday. What would have the greatest impact on reducing global greenhouse gas emissions of the 3 things I'm going to talk about? Number 1 is transport. Number 2, meat production. Number 3, the reduction of emissions from buildings. What would have the greatest impact on reducing greenhouse gas emissions? Reduction in transport emissions, reduction in meat production globally, or the reduction of emissions from buildings? 1, 2, or 3? Please go ahead and vote. Okay, number 1, ironically, is number 3. Number 1 was transport. That actually ranks number 3 on the reduction of global greenhouse emissions. Number 2 was meat production. That's a pretty good guess because it is number 2 on that list. Number 3, which you voted for, is buildings. It is actually number 1. If we could actually change our mindset, and this was some of the ideas that we brought up, bring up strategic alliances of how to better manage our existing buildings around the world, it would have the greatest impact on global emissions worldwide. And something I learned myself on Friday, number 2, which I thought was surprising, it was just reducing meat production worldwide because of the amount of water and fuel that it takes to create meat production, would have the second largest impact on reducing global greenhouse emissions, and actually transport would be number 3. It's surprising what we learn in the debates around the world. Number 1 is just how we think about our buildings, how we manage our buildings on a day-to-day basis, both at home and within the office. We've had a great debate. I appreciate all the questions from the floor and the questions from our panelists, but I think it's important also to hear, because we kept on talking about the next generation. What are the answers for the next generation? What are we doing for the next generation? It's good to hear what the next generation thinks we should be doing today and taking responsibility for tomorrow. Let's take a listen.
Session 4, Alliances of Horses and Forces.
Between the 2 countries, what are the differences of thought concerning the future of energy?
I don't think actually there are differences as much as there are similarities between the 2 countries.
Both countries are looking for other resources rather than the petrol, such as electric power generation and transportation and human energy.
Well, talking about the role of oil in our economy, I say it is the major revenue we have. We don't have the diversification of incomes and revenues. So this is a main question we should ask, why don't we have other income?
I think something that's really important for both countries is the dependency on oil, and how both countries are trying to separate themselves from that dependency, and how America is worried about their dependency on Saudi Arabia's oil, and how Saudi Arabia is worried about how their dependency on oil is going to affect their economy in the future.
I think one of the most interesting things that I've seen in Saudi Arabia, as opposed to the U.S., is the view of oil into the future. In the U.S., we're entering into the potential of a carbon-constrained economy, as well as the prospect of shipping in our oil from other countries around the world and having political instability and economic pressures basically dictate our energy supply.
What is the present role of energy between these two countries, and how will this relationship change in the future?
One of the things that's become clear to me on this trip is that that relationship isn't going away anytime soon, and I don't think we should wish it away anytime soon. And there are a lot of people in the United States I know who feel sort of strongly about the United States' relationship with Saudi Arabia. And I guess one of the things that I've come away from this experience with is how comfortable I am with what the Saudis are doing to promote alternative energy and the steps they're taking, and what a blessing it is for the United States to have a secure supply of oil through Saudi Arabia.
How does each society view its major energy producers?
One of the major differences that I noticed, I think, coming to Saudi Arabia and comparing companies like Exxon and Chevron in the U.S. to Aramco is the popularity of Aramco in this country. It seems like everybody understands that they're responsible for a large degree of growth and stability in this country. People want to go work there. Whereas, you know, where I am in the United States as an energy student, there's a lot of different agreements about what the role of oil producers are in that country.
Among the general public, people are happy to pin climate change on the energy companies, even when every person in the United States is a consumer of energy and is part of the problem.
Can alternative fuels and renewable energy coexist with the conventional oil and gas technology?
I think anyone would be naive to think that we will just leave oil out of our energy equation, oil and natural gas. But on the other hand, I think alternative renewable energies are a must in the future. And I look at oil, especially Saudi Arabian oil, as the key to innovating for the future and basically using that natural capital that you have in this country to leverage immense possibilities in sustainability, in energy security and economic stability far into the future.
In our discussion, we've talked about things that energy companies can do in order to make a note to the general public about how important energy is in every aspect of our lives. And I really want to encourage energy companies who are at the JEF and for all of us to think about two things that oil companies can do. First, for the environment in terms of investing in new energy sources and taking a look at opportunities that are available. For example, in Saudi Arabia, solar energy is an amazing opportunity here. In the U.S., we've started a lot of research and development in alternative forms of energy, and I'd really encourage Saudi Arabia to do the same. And that's one thing Saudi Arabia can learn from the States. And one thing that we Americans can learn from Saudi Arabia is the investment of energy companies into social structures. Aramco has been doing so much for the people in Saudi Arabia, and I'd love to see oil companies in the U.S. really invest and make public that information as well.
Some inspirational thoughts all the way around the board there on the student exchange, sharing the youth highlights. That concludes our session for today. Just a reminder that tomorrow morning we'll be here bright and early at 9 o'clock for the discussion, the socio-economic link, the double helix of life, with Sheikh Lubna Al-Qasimi, Dr. Khalid Al-Ankari, who's the Saudi Minister of Higher Education, and His Royal Highness Prince Bandar bin Saud bin Khalid of Al Faisal University. It's really a fantastic panel that starts bright and early at 9 o'clock. There is a Tiana break if you'd like to have it out there in the main hall, because we had to pass over it because of our roundtable discussion. Thanks, gentlemen, for taking all the questions, and thanks for the questions from the audience. We'll see you tomorrow morning. Thanks.